Android and iOS, is iOS or Apple, are they safer in terms of security because they like to brand themselves as privacy oriented, like they care a lot about their customers' privacy.
Yeah. How to say okay, in terms of Android and iOS, right? The
Yep.
two difference is that iOS is a software owned by Apple itself, but then
Okay.
Android is an open source where everyone actually can go in and make modification, things like that, towards their own needs. Yeah, so in terms of open source software like Android, right, things like that, people can actually read the codes. So from then on, right, they actually can create maybe how to say they can create an exploit, things like that, to more easily because everything is given to them. But then as for Apple itself, it's so proprietary is Apple, so that everything, all their software is built in-house. So no one
Okay.
actually knows outside of Apple, no one actually knows how the code works, things like that. They need to do something called reverse engineering to actually try to understand how the whole software works.
Okay.
Then from there, create the exploit itself. So both are actually susceptible to hacking. I mean, like exploit, things like that.
Yep.
Then, but then Apple will be slightly difficult. Not saying that it's not possible, but slightly difficult. Yeah. So
Because because Android is open source, anyone can see what's going on in terms of the code. As for Apple, they only I guess the staff can only see it, even the customers cannot see it.
yeah, the customer cannot see it because
Okay, so
it's
then because it's internal lah.
yeah.
Then why then what's the advantage of being open source then?
That's being open source itself, right, means that you can have contributors around the world itself, like developers, things like that, to actually come and work on your project. So maybe they might, for example, you create a baseline of 1.0, this code itself. Then after that, they might upgrade it to maybe adding more features or optimize it better. Because if you got like, for example, you hire a team itself, right, the coder itself, they might create their best, but then someone else might be better than them in certain areas like optimization of search, things like that. Then they can implement their own stuff inside. Yeah, that's the benefits of open source. So everyone can contribute their ideas.
I
And
see.
in terms of open source, anyone also can use your software. So people can actually take this software to build their underlying foundation. Use it like maybe Android, use it as an underlying, then it created Samsung, things like that. Samsung
Okay.
phones.
I see. Okay. So because they are open source, anyone can come and work on or create new, I don't know, maybe applications, things like that.
Yeah,
So because it's open, they are vulnerable to attacks. But because of the openness, they also can help contribute and make it better.
yes, it's like a dual-edged sword.
Okay, I see. Well, in that case, that means Apple's staff must be very, very competent. I would think, because in terms of my usage for iOS, I would think it's very similar. I mean, I don't see any feature of iOS or compared to Android that is superior. So if you give me a iPhone to use in terms of the usage, Apple the apps lah, compared to Android, it's quite comparable. It's not like I will lose out if I use iOS. So I would think Apple has the advantage of both security and also innovation. I don't know, will you consider innovation? So, well, in that way, I thought just sounding like this, Apple quite strong.
Yeah, but in terms of that, right, because there's another thing called the security by obfuscation, so that but then in terms of this, Apple is actually encrypting all their how to say their source code. So in terms of iOS, their source code are all encrypted. So people will not be able to read it. That's why it's not saying that it's 100% secure, but just that it will delay the attackers from creating an exploit, things like that. So it's slightly more secure. It's not saying that it's not hackable, things like that.
I see. Okay.